what I always look at for direction is a couple things. One, the rising sign. Two, North Node. So for you, your rising is in Cancer like me. And job and love, good too, yeah. So for Cancer risings, but then you also have your South Node there. So you kind of have an interesting interplay where on one hand, you are being asked to grow and develop these Cancerian traits as the caretaker, but also setting boundaries at the same time, developing intuition. But then you're kind of innately that way by having the South Node there and being asked to release some of it. So on one hand, I think how I would interpret this is it's releasing the low vibrational side of Cancer in a way. But it's just part of your journey, and part of how you're perceived is being the nurturer or the caretaker or having that strong intuition. But it's releasing the parts that are not supportive and moving towards Capricorn, which is all about boundaries, developing systems that work. So this axis would be important anyway, just by being a Cancer rising, but the fact that you also have your North and South Node in there is doubly emphasizing it. And in the whole sign system, Capricorn is in your 7th house, which does relate to love and relationships. There's other areas I can look at as well. But for me, again, because I have a similarly oriented chart, it's looking at partnerships. So whoever it is that you get into a relationship with, if it's something that's long-term, like you want it to be long-term, you want it to feel stable and feel secure. And you can say, oh, well, don't most people want that? Yeah, sure. But you have very specific standards and in fact, your boundaries and centering them and learning to develop them, North Node, is essential. So it could be that maybe you've had a pattern of having issues with that. And it's just working on that over time. And then similarly with by having your 5th house in Scorpio, again, this is the same thing that I have. It means when you're dating that you kind of also want something that's serious or just like intense in some way. You don't want to necessarily just date to date. You want it to feel intentional. You want to have deep conversations. You want to really, really connect with them emotionally, spiritually, intellectually. And so that plays a part in all of the forms of dating and long-term relationships. So when you have those two placements, there's just a lot of intention behind who it is that you want to be in partnership with, and that when you are choosing someone, you want them to be there for the long term. So of course, the other thing that you can look at is where's Venus in your chart. And for you, you have Venus retrograde in Gemini in your 12th house. And that would suggest that you are also having to work on in your relationships feeling alone or feeling separate from them. So maybe they are more, not necessarily emotionally disconnected, maybe because of Capricorn, but that they could leave you feeling it sometimes like you're a little bit by yourself. So that's why it's so important that when you are establishing boundaries, which you do as your North Node, you do with Capricorn, in that 7th house, as you are working on that, you can get your relationships to a space where the boundaries aren't keeping you away from each other so that you feel by yourself. It's that they are there with you and want to lift you up, support your ambitions, support your growth, Capricorn, so that you can build something that's stable and lasting in the long term. It also could suggest that you connect with people who have Gemini traits. So Capricorn and Gemini traits. So they could be particularly chatty, or conversationalist. You have Venus retrograde. So again, kind of suggesting some challenges with that, like having a little more difficulty, again, with the other factors going on, maybe finding those good connections, or just it takes a little bit longer and you end up having to spend a lot of time working on reflecting on yourself, that self-undoing, what it is that you are doing that is not supporting your mission, aka establishing your boundaries, making sure that you have an adequate, respectable partner who is supporting you and who wants to talk to you, wants to have open communication and not leave you feeling stranded. So that's ways that you can actually kind of fold in, like I've talked about, purpose and direction, as well as love at the same time, and in part because they overlap with each other because they're picking up on similar house areas. Looking at the transits, so we have this month and kind of what's ongoing and what's upcoming. We're currently in a Mercury retrograde. That's happening. How perfect. This is also supportive of some of what we've just been talking about with your relationships. The Mercury retrograde is happening in Leo, which is where your natal where your natal Mercury is. It's in your second house, which is, among other things, looking at your self-worth. So even if you're not in a 7th house or 12th house perfection year or 5th house perfection year, you're evaluating this regardless. You're looking at like, well, who am I? What do I bring to the table in life, in relationships? What is my value? What are my values? What do I value around me? And you're doing a lot of assessment with that, not only because of Mercury moving through that space, but because of the retrograde that's happening, which just kicked off. So if you missed the video or class on that, that's already up on my YouTube channel. So that's something that you're going to be going through for another month at the minimum. And then it's going to take a little time after the retrograde ends for it to move into Virgo. So this is a concentrated period of time where you're thinking about finances and your assets, but what you bring to the table and how you value yourself, how you are making an assessment of yourself and what you offer, which can, of course, apply to relationships. You have a lot of your chart concentrated on one side. So that's also something that I look at in my level 2 natal chart readings, as I mentioned, like your chart shape and what that says about your chart. So for some people, all of your planets and points are like in one quadrant, or they're in one half, or they're, on the top or the bottom, or they're spread out, or they're all like across from each other. So there's all these different shapes, and there's some studies on that indicating yet another layer that you can add on to your chart of what it can suggest about you and some of your tendencies, regardless of which house it is. So for me, as an example, my chart's like a little bit spread out. I have pretty much a little something everywhere, except in a few of the signs and houses where I got nothing in them. So your chart is pretty close to just everything being on the right side. So it is concentrated on that right side of your chart. So like 4th house to 10th house, which of course those are sister houses. So it's that whole sign over there. I don't know why I'm supposed to share this, but it's just what I'm being nudged to talk about. You have Chiron in Virgo in your 2nd house, which I just was drawn to talk about. You also have a retrograde. As of note, it goes retrograde for half the year, same as all the outer planets. Chiron, for anyone who's not familiar, it's an asteroid. And so it's this pattern that repeats and repeats and repeats. But if you tend to it, you can learn the lessons of it and you become a master of that domain. And then you can help other people heal in that area. So it is also infused with being able to be a source of wisdom for other people. So for you, by having it in Virgo, it suggests that throughout your entire life, you are battling with some of the Virgo lower vibrational tendencies, such as perfectionism, wanting things to kind of be in a certain way, in a certain order, um, wanting to constantly grow and develop to your own detriment, if you will. Like you could burn yourself out by like always trying to be better. So not only do you have perfectionist tendencies, but then it is causing some sense of wounding to not your ego, because that's your sun, but your sense of self-worth and what you have to offer. Like, am I enough? Because you're always trying to perfect others, yourself, systems. You're always trying to be better, but then like, are you enough? So that's kind of like a drumbeat that happens over and over and over again. Separately on the financial side, because the second and eighth house is the finance axis, having Virgo in there could suggest like a way that you can make money or something that maybe is incorporated into your career is helping others. It's something that's service-based. It's something that allows you to improve the world around you. So it doesn't mean that, oh, it's like it's harmful. It's just when you can understand what doesn't work, what's not supportive, the lower vibrational side of Virgo, that's one of the major lessons in your lifetime that just comes up over and over and over again. Chiron has been in Aries, so way on the other side of your chart in your ninth house for a while now, and it's not going to leave until 2027. Again, I talk about this a little bit in the video that will be coming out talking about the Chiron retrograde. So that means that in your personal chart throughout your entire life, this work, this healing is being done in that second house and as it relates to Virgo. But for the transit, it is in Aries, which is in aversion to it, basically meaning they can't see each other. So that transit in Chiron isn't doing anything to support what's happening in your second house at all, because there's no sight line in your chart. But what it has been working on since 2018 is your learning, your development, your belief system. What do you think is true? How do you want to take action, Aries? What do you want to start up in relation to your worldview, your sense of spirituality, connection to religion, travel, exploring the world, expanding your horizons? So that can inform, even though they can't see each other, that can inform what you learn when you get to the other side of this information that you can take and pull into what you're learning over the course of your life through Chiron. And of course, once it goes into Taurus in 2027, it will then be in a house and sign that is trining your natal placement. So it will be supporting it. So it may feel like you have been kind of running into some dead ends since 2018 in growing this area of life. But once you get to 2027 and we start the leg where Chiron is in Taurus, it will be helping to amplify and support this growth, this release. So I don't know why intuitively that stood out, but I barely even looked at the rest of your chart. My eyeballs went straight to talking about Chiron because that felt like it was really important. Definitely resonates. That makes so much sense. I'm in a job right now not feeling drawn to and trying to get into more public interest work, helping people. Perfect. And I'll just say, just as a quick aside, if you look at your career houses, so as I mentioned, Virgo in that second house, that's how you create money. That's one way of looking at it through that lens. You would also look at your sixth house. So they're all in earth signs, basically. All of the career houses are in earth signs. You would look at your sixth house in Capricorn, which is suggesting that the work environment that you want to be in has structure that allows you to grow, to get promoted, have some sort of a growth path. Also, that you are maybe even helping other people by developing systems. So the service and the work that you're doing, like you have like a strong work ethic, Capricorn, but you're wanting to create systems. And that, Virgo and Capricorn have a little bit of that in common, even though they have different rulers. And then you would look at your 10th house, which you have in Taurus, and you also have a stellium up there. You have a lot of energy up in Taurus in your 10th house. So there is and in your 6th house. So you have a lot of earth energy, and it's in these career houses. So that's something to consider as well. As like if this is part of your theme over and over and over again, maybe part of what you're questioning with your worth is relating to your career and how you're improving yourself, because you want to work hard and you want to have a very grounded career, supportive career, service-focused career, stable career. And it might just not be, you might be kind of getting in your own way with the pressure that you put on yourself. It's about the pressure. Doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It's just the pressure you are applying to yourself. And then just kind of the final thought. So for the 10th house, that's like how you're known, and it's like the arc of your career. And by having that in Taurus, it's again suggesting like you being known for by other people as someone who's really stable, who is maybe a little bit slower moving, not like jumping to quick decisions, wanting security, being maybe money or material focused in some capacity. Of course, there's high and low manifestations of that. And it also could suggest that maybe the arc of your career, the field that you are in, could, and of course it's optional, you don't have to do this or not, but could be related to luxury or money or something particularly earthy, because all of these are in the earth signs. So it could be nature focused. I mentioned luxury if it was like a spa or something calming or wellness related, Virgo. Like how you earn money if it's something that's like related to health in some capacity. So lots and lots of different options. If any of that, piques your interest and resonates, then it's likely because of how you have this oriented within your chart.